Kevin Allen Jackson. On behalf of my co-hosts Isaac Simpson and Maria Perry, I'd like to welcome you to this episode of Short on Shorts. Our special guest reviewer this week is writer and actor Ryder Strong, best known as Sean Hunter on Boy Meets World. And today we're reviewing Action Man, Battlefield Casualties, directed by Price James. Make sure to check it out before watching our review. The link is in the description below. Enjoy the movie and our review.
Ryder's pick is Action Man, Battlefield Casualties, directed by Price James, written by Darren Cullen. This is a pitch black comedy, which is sort of a set of mock commercials for a toy army action figure. But instead of your normal buff hero, this soldier has PTSD and other terrible conditions. It was produced by an organization called Veterans for Peace UK, and it is definitely intended to have a powerful message. So, Ryder, tell us why you picked this movie.
I picked this one because I like shorts that really could only be a short film. You know, I feel like a lot of times people try to make a feature that is a short or a TV series that's a short, and I felt like this one was just unique in that it could only be a short film. And in terms of craft, I thought it was it captured something that I remember from my childhood of a certain, 80s style commercial, and it's really dark, which again, only short films can be this dark, I think, because often, if you get longer, you have to care about people. This is just so dark. But then at the end, kind of is meaningful too, and not just for a cruel laugh. It has a lot of political value. So all those things made it something that I really responded to.
Yeah, I mean, what's amazing is that this was produced by a veterans organization, and it is so dark.
Yeah,
right.
It's very British. It's really, really British.
Yeah. So what makes it really British?
The sense of humor is very British. It's very sort of, I feel like that's more normal there, that it makes sense that the veterans people were like, oh no, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's just culturally cool.
No veterans group in America would finance a short like this.
No.
Well, this is the country that has a national holiday for a guy who blew up Parliament, so I guess I'm not too surprised by it.
Yeah.
But it didn't, to me, I enjoyed it. I don't think it's a film, but it's a piece of, we say that this show is for short form content, right? And this definitely fits into that. It's not a film, but it is a piece of short form content. I don't know exactly what it is. The guy who directed it is, I'm pretty sure, a pretty well-established commercial director in England. I might be completely wrong about that, but...
It makes sense based on how it looks and feels. It nails all the details.
I wasn't sure why there's this framing device, right? And I assumed it was that they're switching from channel to channel, and every channel they get to is a new commercial. Is that what was going on?
I think it was partially that, and also partially to lock it into a time period. Because Action Man is actually a real, he's almost the Barbie, he's the G.I. Joe of the UK. He's a real person, or a real
this is a real
character.
children's
It's a real
doll.
toy.
Yeah.
It is, really.
That they've reappropriated for this.
But
Okay.
I was only exposed to Action Man through my little brother in the early 2000s, and he looks a lot different.
Right.
He's much more svelte and sleek now. He's got molded hair. It's not fuzzy. So I think they were trying to put it into a time period. And one of my favorite things was as they're flipping through channels, there's a 2-second clip of Mr. Blobby.
Who's Mr. Blobby?
What's Mr. Blobby?
For a second in there's a bright pink dude with yellow spots, and he's this terrifying, I think he started as a UK equivalent of Saturday Night Live character that became popular and was for some reason allowed around children. And he's so terrifying, and he was top of the charts for Christmas time for a couple of years, and then they made theme parks that failed, and now they're just rotting in the English countryside, and now it's twice as scary. Anyway, He's a delight. But that's very solidly in the 90s, the early part of the 90s, if I remember right. So I feel like a lot of that was just kind of to lock it into a time period.
Right.
My feeling was that it was a VHS tape because the end credits are a VHS.
Oh, yeah,
so I felt because I remember having tapes that you would record things and then they get re-recorded and then so it would have this layering effect, and that's what I felt like watching this. I was like, oh, I'm somebody put a VHS in that was like the family's VHS that like different kids had recorded their favorite. So it just ends up being this sort of like pop culture detritus that's like gathered on this VHS.
That's interesting.
You know, and that was for me just a cool context to be watching something. You know, I haven't seen that. It was
that's really interesting, and yeah, I bet you're right. Why do you think they made it specific to that time period? Because it's still, I mean, it wasn't made that long ago.
Because that was the heyday of those types of commercials, I think. That was the heyday of the G.I. Joe commercial. I mean, I also remember those from being a kid. You know, G.I. Joe fighting Cobra, whatever, and, you know, they're shooting, like, missiles at each other and stuff. So I think it was sort of a throwback to that.
And I think it helps to have the nostalgia turn on you. Do you know what I mean? Like, part of the effectiveness, if they made a commercial that looked like, I actually haven't watched children's television recently, but I imagine commercials are slightly more sophisticated now, or something that I wouldn't really relate to. But as a viewer, as an adult viewer, it made me think of my childhood, and then that gets turned on its head.
Well, I don't know that, like you're saying, there's really not, I don't know if we can give a rating too much because it's not really a narrative film. It's more, does it have the impact that this social commentary is meant to have? And I think it did for me. I mean, I definitely realized the level of manipulation that I was probably going through as a kid, which I think was the point.
Who's the target for this, though? You know what I mean? I mean, who is this? Is this intended for adults who are not aware that they were manipulated throughout their childhoods? I mean, is that who this is made for?
I think it's for adults who are aware. Of course, I think everyone's aware that they were manipulated to a certain extent, but it's to what ends, you know? And I think they're skewering two different things. They're skewering the glorification of war on one hand, but then also the manipulation of children and pop, you know, the use commercial culture. And I think that it blends the two of those criticisms really effectively together. Because we don't ever, you know, obviously, like, we don't have dolls about PTSD the same way we don't really have policies that help veterans. You know, we just sort of ignore the existence of, it's like, you're a great soldier, and then we don't really want to hear from you. We don't have to pay for your benefits. We don't want to have to, you know, take care of you. And so I think that, I thought it was really effective.
Yeah.